Hello, everybody. Welcome to, should I say, the last live stream of 2023. I can't believe, I know everybody's saying that, but I can't believe it's the last one. We are moving to the next year. We've done how many live stream this year? We've done one every 2 weeks, except once, like we missed one. So we did about like 25.
25 by my count. Yeah.
That is pretty cool, and hopefully you had as much fun watching those live streams that we had fun doing them, and hopefully you get a lot of out of those educational, new technology knowledge, learning how to do things. So yeah, we're pretty excited about this one. We are trying a new format right now. So today we're not going to demo a new technology. We're not going to fill your brain with some new tech that like you may not know about. I know it's amazing when we do that, but at the same time, it's nice to, just have like a casual chat about what's happening in tech and especially in cloud native space. So to do that today, we are pretty excited, not because John is there. We're not excited about that. We are excited because we get Abby Bangser with us. So thanks for joining us, Abby.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to round out the year. I can also make sure I get the year correct. If I came on the first one next year, I would definitely be saying 2023 still. So this is good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And obviously, I was joking. Always happy to have John with us. How is life, John?
Life is good, Fred. It's the year is closing out strong, and we've got one of my favorite people in cloud native on the show, and we're going to talk about some platform engineering together.
That's gonna be awesome, and we know that yeah, she's not only your favorite person. Jared saying Heavy is here, like awesome, and yeah, oh, and hi to Fred and John. Thanks for the enthusiast, Jared. And it wouldn't be a live stream if Patrick Labs was not with us listening
Agreed.
live. Hi, Patrick. Always nice to quote unquote see you on the show. So, yeah, as I said today, we're going to talk about platform engineering. We're going to talk about cloud native. We're also lucky because Abby is leading or one of the leader of the platforms working group. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And to be honest, like I was looking for that show, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm the stupidest person in the room. So that's going to be amazing to listen to like two like giant of the industry talking about like platform engineering and me trying to like say something once in a while to not look too stupid. But this is the kind of things I like. I like to be that person in the room. That's going to be amazing. But let's get started. For the people that don't know you, who are you, Abby? We know you, but like maybe some folks don't know you.
I imagine many folks don't know me. I am Abby. I have this accent, so I'm an American, but I am living across the pond in the UK. I've been in London for about 8 years now. I have been in technology for a bit over a decade. In a journey, I was just talking to John about this, a journey through QA into platform engineering, SRE, and different spaces, which I'm sure will come up a bit as we chat more. And I'm currently a principal engineer at Syntasso, building Cradix, which is a framework for building platforms and orchestrating them. So I also do a lot of other random things. I think Fred nicely mentioned, I'm one of the co-leads of the platforms working group within the CNCF, and I'm a team topologies advocate as well. Basically, where you will find me is where socio-technical things come together. So where the people and the tech come together to make magic happen. That's what I tend to be excited about.
That's awesome. This is why I like you because like this is what I love and this is what I do for the last couple of years, like trying to bring like tech to the people, trying to bring people into tech and like really like focus on the people side of tech and not just like the tech side of tech. So I think there's going to be an amazing discussion today. Uh, you talked a little bit about like the platform working group, what it is, like what is the platform working group, what's the goal, what are you doing?
What do we do? Yeah, so the CNCF, or the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, is, I mean, it's the Kubernetes thing, if you haven't heard of it. And within that, there is like a CTO that talks about how to bring cloud native to organizations. And below the CTO, there is a TOC, or a technical oversight committee. And this is a little bit like being the office of the CTO. It's a number of people around the world who help bring ideas forward and make sure that they're getting airtime and support from the organization. And underneath that very high level oversight committee, there are a number of tags. A tag is a technical advisory group and tends to be quite narrow in focus. So there'll be a tag for security, there's a tag for observability, and there's a tag for app delivery. And the app delivery tag talks about all the things from writing software through to actually having customers use it. What does that look like? Packaging up your software, testing your software a bit, the delivery process, orchestrating the infrastructure around your software, and all these kinds of things. And what's cool about the tag structure is that those tags are set up by that leadership committee, that talk, to inform them of things. But then they're given a bit of free reign on how to organize themselves. And one of the things that those tags can do is they can create even more narrow focused working groups. And so typically working groups are not as long lived as the tags. They come and go as a need for a focus on a topic might come. And what the tag app delivery realized over the last couple of years is that there was a need for how to combine applications and infrastructure as a part of that app delivery process. And that we were seeing emerging a pattern that was being delivered with an internal platform. And so a working group around that concept of platforms came up, and that has been running for about 15 months, I think, 18 months, maybe something like that. 18 months. And that working group has tried to help solidify some of the things that are coming about in the community. So it's a group of people that I would say there's probably 20 or 30 really regular attendees and contributors. There's another probably 30 to 50 people who come and go as and when they can, and provide reviews of things, but are maybe not day in and day out around. That leaves us with almost 100 people across vendors and consultants, and as well as people who are boots on the ground building platforms, pretty evenly distributed across those three categories of people, talking about what patterns they're seeing, what challenges they're facing, what help they wish they had, and standards they wish they saw around the community. So that's our job, is to figure out what we can do to help people, what we can do to try and make sense of the emergent area around platform engineering right now.
So the very easy task of wrapping your arms around what every single organization on the planet is doing with their platform building and application delivery of every type of application under the sun. It seems pretty easy to knock out. How's it been going for the last 18 months?
Why do you need 100 people? Just sit down, knock it out over a beer on the Friday night, right?
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah, it's funny, right? Because platforms aren't new. Like, I feel like I'm officially now a gray hair where I'm like, oh, kids these days, this isn't new. Except it's like, it's really interesting as you see patterns go in cycles. Like, we have been talking about platforms for over a decade. It's
100%.
just that platforms have been relegated to internal organizations, often only in the organizations that had the money and scale to really invest in them. And what we realize is that they can bring power to even organizations that are more mid-size or small size, and that we need to be building up. And the tooling around the industry has improved so much that it's like unlocked the ability to make internal platforms even at smaller companies. And that's why I think it's like wildfire right now. People are so excited, and I think it's great. I think it's awesome that we're breathing life into this concept that has been sort of tucked away in the corners of large organizations for so many years.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. My first ever platform that I had exposure to was predated Kubernetes by a lot. It was when we were working at USA Today. They had just swaths of teams, geographically distributed with large isolation amongst the teams. There was a mobile team, there was a front end team, core team, an editor team, you name it. There were just like teams of developers with needs that were building products and delivering it to production so that it's available, on the internet. And they're all working in isolation from one another. But there's this governing body that has to exist in order to keep it all efficient and available. And so that no matter what these teams need to build, there's a good starting point to allow them that high level of velocity. And that predated Kubernetes by half a decade easy. Platform as a service started to popularize, and in comes Kubernetes. And Kubernetes was quite a game changer for platform building because of the new ability that it gave you to have a standard of how you install and run third-party software, right? And so, these large enterprises building their platforms out of open source tools, all of the sudden don't need to have a bespoke implementation that they write in Ansible or Puppet or Chef or whatever it is that they needed to do. Now, all of a sudden, there's a official way to install and configure these platform components, and it's relatively easy to put them all together in a way where you can repeatably create that platform over and over again. So that's been a really neat evolution in over the last decade. And Kubernetes, with their staple way of doing business, is front and center, it seems.
I do feel like it's probably blasphemy, especially as the CNCF working group lead, to call out the challenges, or the evolution has not always been forward, I don't think, by bringing Kubernetes into the picture. You mentioned PaaS, or platforms as a service. Like,
yep.
The poster child of that was Heroku, right? And maybe a more, for the kids these days, you might be looking at Vercel, and those are probably teenagers. The kids these days, maybe like Fly.io or something, right? These would be considered your platforms as a service, where you're like, just take my software code and deal with it.
Yeah.
This is great. This is fantastic software development, software application developer experience. And then when Kubernetes came along, we actually, again, don't mean to be speaking ill, but we actually went backwards almost, because all of a sudden we said, ooh, there's a standard, we can start to use it. And we actually asked devs to step back and start doing YAMLs and start doing Helm charts and start doing these things. And like, it was, you said it's for platform building, and I 100% agree with you on that. But yet for almost a decade, it was really being just handed over to people instead of building that platform experience on top of it. And I think that's what's so exciting this kind of year, really, this year or two, where we're starting to see all these products and experiences and experience reports. I saw a great one at KubeCon in Chicago about organizations describing how they use Kubernetes to build an internal compliant performant experience that they could control, that was as good as Heroku, Vercel, Fly, etc., but on their own infrastructure using Kubernetes. Now that's where you start to get, I think, the power. But it took us a while to get there. We had to sort of mature Kubernetes and mature our understanding of Kubernetes, I think.
100%. Yeah, you're right. It was kind of right on the heels of that whole shift left mentality movement, right? Mm-hmm. And we were, CI and CD was starting to come along, and developers were with tools like Puppet and Chef and everything else, they were able to gain proficiency in having a way to get the infrastructure that they needed and get their app on that infrastructure and be able to run it. And you're exactly right. When Kubernetes entered the scene, it just seemed like another thing that we could shift left and put the burden on the shoulders of the developers and let them deal with it. And before you knew it, in even a medium-sized organization, you suddenly have 20 different Kubernetes clusters that are configured completely different. And that's a huge burden for an organization to have without some governance to be able to pull it back into a platform that can be adopted or extended down to the developer for the individual developer's needs or whatever. So obviously the work that you're doing in the working group is near and dear to my heart. We're obviously at Kubefirst. We're sort of right on that same front line of trying to enable organizations to, be able to effectively get value out of Kubernetes without that, 6, 9, 12 month of investment that you need. Having something like your maturity model to be able to lean on, to be able to have that official voice of what is a platform and what does it mean to take it to varying degrees of maturity is valuable to be able to reference and to be able to measure yourself against in terms of what your needs are as an organization and where your investments should go for those needs. Yeah, I don't know. I would love to talk just a little bit about the maturity model and sort of what mindset you had to kind of tackle that that type of a job. And I'm curious to know more about how you were able to get input on what should be in the maturity model. And can you just kind of tell me a little bit about how you start?
Actually, we should probably even explain what is the maturity model for people that don't know about it. And just before we do that, I would like to say hi to Elif Carr, who is joining us from the UK. So thanks for joining us live. And just as a reminder, if you have any question or you want to interject in the discussion, leave any comments in the platform and we will display them as soon as it's possible for me to put them in the discussion without disturbing too much the flow.
Oh, but getting words in with John and I are going to be tough, Fred. We gave you the hardest job of the day.
I know John, but now I didn't know we had someone else like John or I. So yeah, I'm up for the challenge. We'll do it.
I can tell you are. I can tell. No, you had a great shout on what is a maturity model. So first of all, I am a recovering consultant. So for all those that are listening to the word maturity model and having a little bit of a reaction, please hear this out. Yeah, so basically the working group, I explained the kind of structure of the CNCF and where the working group falls in. And the duration this group has existed, about 18 months, give or take. And what happened in those 18 months? Well, first of all, we had a whole working group called platforms, and we were like, but what's a platform? So we sort of thought the first thing we have to do is get agreement on what a platform is, because that's not obvious. It's not obvious even since we sort of produced a white paper about platforms. And so that white paper was released in April of 2023, so not that long ago actually, and already we're having learnings that I'm sure will evolve that into a version 2 and beyond. This is an emergent space. But that white paper was targeted at sort of leadership. Why would you want a platform in your organization? What kind of impact and outcomes can you expect and hope for your organization? That white paper was great, but it was pretty hand wavy. And that was exactly what it was supposed to be to a certain extent. It was supposed to be a high level overview of where this fits into business expenses, business opportunities, business impact. But there's a lot of humans in the CNCF that are like, cool, but let's make that thing work. What is this in reality? Let's talk about actually implementing this. And so that's where we talk about the maturity model being a level of detail below. To be clear, the maturity model does not once mention technology. And the maturity model also actually, I was going to say something as you follow up from what you were saying, John, it's not just Kubernetes, because most organizations have actually often a lot of their money-making applications not on Kubernetes. A lot of their newer stuff is, but some of their really long-standing, high-use things aren't. And so you need a platform to manage environments all the way to edge and serverless and WASM, all the way back to mainframes and other things on-prem. So this is a level of detail below sort of, hey, you should have some way of supporting your internal teams, but a level above, and this is the type of technologies you want to pull together to make this work. That's sort of where we fit. And so what is a maturity model? A maturity model tries to discuss what kind of things you might have to try and evaluate about what you're doing and how you can sort of progress those components, we call them aspects, from an early stage to a later stage. why you might have a bad reaction to a maturity model is because historically they could be used to measure teams in a really kind of aggressive way. Sometimes it's really hard to try and measure a whole organization across teams using these sort of generic models. It's like, again, I'm a recovering consultant. I can't say I've never seen that done. And it's just a bad experience, right? Because basically, if you're not perfect, then you're bad, is what
Right.
sort of
Right.
ends up being felt by a maturity model. And that is not how this one was built. So we tried to learn from the mistakes of past. So we'll see. But
Right on.
yeah, I don't know. So maybe I can show the maturity model.
I would love that. If you could show us at least at a high level, like what are the elements that the maturity model is trying to cover?
Yeah. So the maturity model, just to be clear, before I share this, comes with I think about 12 pages of details and explanation and context and like information behind this, right? So I'm going to show you the like pithy slide deck worthy bit of the maturity model, but just remember that there's a lot of context in anything that you do. So this is it. This is what we keep talking about as a maturity model. As you can see, there's these aspects on the left-hand side and these sort of levels across the top. So a couple things I want to call out. So the first thing is that the levels, they aren't numbered. Everybody's going to put a number to them, let's be honest.
Yeah.
We already talk about between levels 2 and 3 and things like that. But actually seriously have a look at how we categorized maturity, because one of the things I'm the most proud of is that when our group was talking through the model and, hey, is this fit for purpose? Should we be releasing this? What better can we do with it? We have people who are building platforms in our group who looked at it and proudly stated that they were level operational. They were level 2.
Yeah.
And they did not say that and then hide in a corner and pretend like they were going to tell their boss they were actually level 4 so they could keep their jobs, right? This is people that were like, we are operational and that's where we should be. And that's where we are. And we're getting the benefit our organization expects. And we're happy.
Yeah.
Because if you look at these, it's like provisional. I want to talk about that one, but I'll leave that. Not every organization needs to even get to operational. If you're a pre-seed, early stage startup trying to figure out if you even have a product, if you're trying to operationalize your platform already, you're probably putting money in the wrong place.
Right.
You're probably trying to do something that isn't yet necessary for your organization. Just like if you are a large multinational organization servicing millions of customers, if you aren't operational, you're probably going to be feeling pain. You're probably going to be realizing that you're paying out to SLAs because you're not meeting performance requirements that you've promised to your customers, or you're having downtime that means you're losing retention of your customers or things like that. So it's all about the context of where is your business and what does your business depend on for what you should be in these levels. And I think that's really kind of key and really important. So you should never, one of the things we're really proud about is that there isn't a negative aspect to any of these.
Right.
A
Yeah.
factual aspect. You are here, and this is what you will get in the way of benefits, and this is where you will feel limitations if you need more. So that's
a really healthy way to put it forward.
Yeah.
And certainly I feel like, folks that are embarking on a new platform engineering, platform building operation, it's so handy to have sort of laid out for you all the considerations of platform building and be able to assess how far you are trying to go with each one of those components and why and what values you'll get out of it, so that you know where your investments should go. And certainly I know firsthand that, when you're sort of at least in the Kubernetes space, when you're doing platform building and you have sort of high demand of requirements, and it's certainly hard to describe in detail the huge swath of responsibility that goes into that platform building. You've got aspects of, user management. You have aspects of application delivery. You have aspects of IAM and security and operationalization of your infrastructure and self-service of being able to enable your developers to be able to do what they need to do without interaction with the platform team, and to sort of have this map of what a platform is and how to take it to varying levels or degrees of investment and maturity, I think is really handy when you're part of a team that needs to build it and perhaps have a management that does not have that same understanding. It's hard to communicate that when you're deep in tech, when you're deep in the weeds of Helm charts and YAML and IAC and SSO and whatever. It's hard to lay all of that out in a grokable format to have those discussions with your leadership about what you need to be invested in your platform to get certain benefits out of your platform. And so I really just can't commend you guys enough for putting the maturity model together. I have looked it over extensively. It is very well put together, and it's thoughtful, as Abby mentioned, of not diving in, and I've heard her say firsthand that they're not trying to make kings. There's no establishment of well, this one is the best one, so use this technology. The technology is left out of the equation completely. It's very vendor agnostic. It's very it's a good starting point for understanding the platform that you're trying to build, why you're trying to build it. And then from that decision-making process, you can start to choose the right technologies that are right for your organization to implement the platform that you desire.
Yeah, I think I'd be curious on it. I feel like your experience, I've talked to you a little bit about your background before, about why you're building Kubefirst, right? And how you have so much experience building platforms yourself. I feel like a large part of your experience is sort of in that moving your teams and your organizations from that provisional level to that operational level. Like sort of saying there's some things that exist. There are some tools internally, but how do we make this something that like we can actually maintain with a reasonable sized team of humans and actually at the like resilient and operational level that our organization depends on or requires. Is that fair to say? Is that where you've lived a lot of your life?
Yeah, you're spot on. My first ever Kubernetes project was right after I left USA Today, and we had a tiny 3-person team that needed to build. It was a real estate startup. They're gonna fly to the moon, and they needed to be able to scale to crazy degrees for the amount of data that they had. They were doing some really cool stuff. And it was the CTO said, it's Kubernetes, hell or high water, figure it out. So that's what we did. We figured it out, and it was exhausting, and it was time consuming, and it was a hard process to go through. And we put these tools together. We start the same way everyone starts. You read some blogs, you find out the internet's full of lies, and you just start experimenting and tinkering and messing with it, and you make bad decisions of tech that doesn't work well together, and then you start to discover better tech that does work better together. And after a long enough round of fighting against Kubernetes, you end up with this platform that the business is actually getting great value out of, and it's repeatable, and it's great, and it's got just a ton of benefits. And after that first project, my co-founder Jared and I, we said, we know the tech stack. We know how to get companies to adopt Kubernetes. We know how to operationalize the stuff. Let's split and do it for other companies. And that's just what we're going to do out of life because we love Kubernetes and we love platforms. Let's do that. So he went to one job. I went to another job. We both knew exactly what we were going to do. We just finished. And it still took us forever. And it drove us nuts that it was taking so long. You have to have the same arguments with everyone. You have to argue about where are your secrets going to go? Are you going to put them in something like Vault? Or are you going to put them in cloud secrets? Are you going to use sealed secrets? What are you going to do? You have to argue about your infrastructure as code. Are you going to do Terraform? Are you going to do Puppet? Are we going to get into crossplane? You have GitOps versus non-GitOps conversations. You have all kinds of just like, even just your ingress controller, you're going to argue about the right ingress controller. And those arguments are entirely right to have. Like that is a platform team's job to debate and to try to identify the tech that is most optimal for a good flow for developers to pull value out of Kubernetes. But it takes so long to build it. And so that's kind of where Kubefirst started, was just like, can we get rid of that first part? Because at the end of the day, if you go from shop to shop to shop, you'll find a lot of similarity. There are, at least if you're buying into open source tools, there are certain best of breed or most popular technologies that have just exceptional documentation and exceptionally vibrant user communities. And those are hard to say no to. So if we could all just start there instead, in something that was fully operationalized, and then start those debates about, well, should we change the ingress controller to something else? Then at least your business is getting value out of Kubernetes and the platform while those discussions are happening, instead of putting the cart before the horse and having all these lengthy debates while nobody's getting any value out of the investment into Kubernetes. So that's kind of our angle with it. And because of that, we have to study everyone. I'm sure much the same way that you do. We have to study super large organizations, Fortune 50 companies. They do platform engineering, but it's a special flavor of platform engineering at a Fortune 50 company. They have management clusters that provision management clusters that provision workload clusters. And then you look at a very, very small, even an individual engineer that maybe has a great idea, and they're trying to get this idea off the ground and get a proof of concept working so that they can raise some capital and see if they can fulfill their dream, right? And they know that they want this product to scale. They want to invest in Kubernetes, and they need a platform of sorts. It's just that it has a very different set of hard requirements for an individual that a super large organization would need. And so
it's provisional.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been an interesting walk to kind of go from shop to shop and see the different needs of different platform groups and how deep their layers of investment are in the different aspects of platform engineering. And yeah, so certainly to add some structure to that chaotic mess of how every company on earth does platforming it's certainly why I'm so interested in the maturity model that you guys have been working on. But really cool. Let me ask you back, like how did you get input on the content? Like what was your testing ground to test the maturity model against like real use cases?
Yeah, so the maturity model was actually born out of my current company, Syntasso. So we're lucky enough to have some amazing humans who've been doing platforms for literally decades,
Yeah.
multiple, including running major platforms for things like Comic Relief, which is the largest nonprofit in like the UK. It has major kind of spikes in traffic and things. We've run those platforms, Cloud Foundry platforms at some of those big Fortune 50, Fortune 100 companies, things like that. And so honestly, it was a bit of a brainstorm internally to our team. But at the end of the day, you mentioned how amazing this is because it doesn't talk about tools. It doesn't talk about vendors. It's completely agnostic to that. And it doesn't matter how agnostic our thinking was. The fact that we are a vendor meant that we were going to A, have bias, and B, we were going to be seen as having bias, even if we managed to stay completely unbiased, which is never possible.
Right.
And so we very quickly got it out of our heads and into the hands of others. But it started in our networks. We're like, it's a maturity model. People don't like these things. These things are just going to create drama. And it was shocking. We had everyone came back and they were like nitpicking. They were not going, do not let this see the light of day. What are you thinking? Like, this is completely wrong. We got a lot of votes of confidence that, where we were going is in the right direction. And we got amazing, I don't want to say nitpicking because that makes it sound like the feedback wasn't high value. It was, but it was very targeted. It was things that we could improve, things that we could move.
Right.
It wasn't fundamentally shut down this project. So we took on all those ideas and then again wanted it out of our hands as quickly as possible. So because I'm a part of this working group, I brought it to the group to say, hey, is this the right home for it? And thankfully, the other co-leads, Robert and Josh, were super keen. The participants in the group immediately saw opportunity there. And so we took an original sort of brainstorm table that we had gotten some feedback on. And actually, we ended up tearing it to shreds. We ended up completely like taking it down and bringing it back up again. And there's a lot of overlap with that original table, but it is night and day what happens when you start to get input from people around the world, around from different scale companies, around from different backgrounds, and all these things. And yeah, it's great. And so the number of people that we had then stress testing this within our group that are platform engineers in teams, I have been, but it's amazing how quickly you move from being someone who's like, how do I Google how to fix YAML in Argo to like thinking differently. And so getting that feedback from someone who's boots on the ground, trying to build their platforms, opened our eyes to some more things and evolved it. So yeah, it was really cool, but it was also really interesting. I felt like for those people, the value they got was it made them think bigger. So we at one point, as I said, ripped this all up and we said, we've been working on this for 4 months, trying to fine tune this thing. And some people have some really big questions. And what's really hard to do is move something that's already done. So you know what?
Right.
Rip it up, throw it away. In 2 weeks, we're going to get on a phone call and everyone can present their maturity model. Any shape, any size, any organization, any words, anything that you can think of, any format. What would you do to try and help people understand how to apply that white paper in different styles of organizations?
Yeah.
And I think that was something that really helped some people understand like the big picture influence aspect of this piece of work, where they were thinking about their team.
Yep.
And when they started having to think about it from a bigger perspective, they're like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And so I think it was learning just across the board with all of us. We often within the group say that everyone else loves the outputs. They have no idea the level of learning and opportunity you get when you actually participate in creating it as well. So big open arms welcome, an invite to anybody to come join the group and engage in the next pieces of work we have coming up. We're working on platform as a product right now, some guidance and understanding about where the industry is at with that. And we're going to be doing the white paper is going to be a year old in April. We'll have some questions on if it's ready for a revisit, and other things are going on. So come join, get involved in the conversations. I think that's the really great part. So
yeah, I confess that I haven't been at the working group meetings anywhere near the capacity that I have wished that I had the time to join, but I can advocate strongly for the welcoming group that it is. It's a very shoulders down, casual, easy to join, very comfortable session for any newcomers. It's certainly super welcoming and a great place to go if you're looking for a good open source place to contribute to the CNCF, which is valuable for a whole bunch of reasons, but certainly being in this particular working group, I just don't think that you could do any better. So and Fred, I think that you and I should get over to the working group more regularly. What do you think? You think we can etch out 12 minutes of a week to at least show up and wave and then hit the hang up button and run back to our jobs? Or
I think we should. I think we should because
too.
there's a lot of interesting things. Like you were talking previously before the live stream about like the direction of the working group, like being like socio technical focused, which is something, as I said before, like super interesting to me. And you're doing pretty amazing thing. I mean, you told us about the first platform engineering day that's going to happen in Paris. Like, we'd like to talk a little more about that, because I think like people who's going to go to KubeCon, you probably don't want to miss that full day now.
Absolutely not. It is. So for those that have not been able to attend a KubeCon before, it's an amazing event. 3 days long with usually between 10 and 12,000 people at it, which can be overwhelming, but it's also amazing and lots of friendly faces, and you quickly get adopted by the community, I promise. But what's great about it is they also do co-located days that are a bit more narrow in focus, and you can apply to have one of those. And we put an application for a day around platform engineering, which is a little bit unique because a lot of the colo days are very technology focused. They're like Argo Day and Backstage Con and like very specific technologies, whereas this is about a movement, a way of working, a kind of socio-technical challenges of building these platforms. And so we applied, and the rule of thumb is if you apply for a brand new topic, they don't really know how it's going to go, so they give you a half day at most, right? If you get successful. We were successful. And you have a half day, which is about 3 talks, which is lovely and amazing. And if it goes well, you can extend that, you can do it again, and all these things. We had 225 applications to speak. So that was a record-setting amount for a first-time colo event or co-located event, and immediately opened the eyes of the CNCF to say, oh, hang on, maybe this isn't such a question on how popular this topic will be. So they acted fast. You have to give them credit for that. They see what the community needs and they respond, and immediately found us a venue that would support a full day event instead of a half day event, which means that we're going to have like 6 or 8 sessions instead of 3 or 4. It's going to give us space to have those discussions, those hallway track conversations, as well as hear some stories. And I don't know I'm not one of the maintainers of it. I'm not one of the leads of it, but I was a reviewer, and I can tell you there's some amazing talks by end user companies. So large banks based in the US, large transit companies in Europe, large, just these companies that are really doing these things, really challenging. And what I loved about the submissions is they weren't all, look at us, we're great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of them were really honest and open, and they were really saying, here's where we are, here's where we need to be, and we want to talk about why that's hard. We want to talk about what our problems are, what we've overcome, what we still need to figure out, which I think if you get people on stage being open and honest about that stuff, it drives a conversation in the community that day that's going to be open and honest and give people a chance to kind of come together and not try and puff their chests out, but instead truly talk about where the problems are and what they can do to learn from each other. So I can't wait to see the schedule for it, basically. I think it's gonna be great.
That's really exciting.
And John, we didn't plan our trip yet, but I feel like because we're going to be at KubeCon Paris, we're probably going to have a booth there. So I feel like we need to like arrive the day before and like be there at 10 the platform day.
Yeah. I even submitted to Platform Engineering Day as well. So fingers crossed. No, but one way or another, you couldn't do any better than Platform Engineering Day. I think that's just exactly the conversations that I want to hear. Certainly I'm super biased. Building platforms that build platforms, so it's sort of near and dear to my heart.
Turtles and all
yeah,
that. Ooh,
yeah.
A quick plug, since I know we have some UK friends and people around Europe. There has been a new movement to do a cube train to KubeCon. So a whole bunch of the European cities are putting together initiatives to rent out entire train cars.
Get out.
And some of them are getting sponsored. So you can even get free transit from some of the cities, but not all of them are sponsored yet. So if you are interested in that, there's a channel in the CNCF Slack about that, and I'm sure they'll start to advertise it. But I know London, I know Berlin, I'm pretty sure Geneva I saw. Yeah, so look around if you're coming from a European city or you want to fly into a different European city and jump on board. That'll be really fun. So.
That is really neat.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those, like Geek Train or like Bus, like bringing people to the events, and this is the kind of place where you want to be. Seriously.
Yeah, little known fact: Kubefirst was born on a train. We were
You're American. What train?
I know. We were on a train from DC to New York. We were going to Datadog Dash back in God, I want to say 2017-ish, 18. And we were just, it was Jared's and we had been working together for like, I don't know, 9 months or so. And it was truly the first like hour that we had together where we weren't working. And that place was they had a sign on the wall that said speed is the only thing that matters. It was a very high octane kind of startup. So there wasn't a lot of time to chit chat about, world views on platform engineering or anything like that. But they put us on this train and sent us off to New York, and all of a sudden we had a few hours to kill. And we were just kind of reflecting on the platform that we built, but how frustrating it was that it took so long to build it. And what we could do about it, and we bought the Kubefirst domain on the train ride home.
There you go.
I didn't know about that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that train idea is super cool. I'm definitely going to be checking that out. That would be worth flying into the wrong city just to come into the city the right way. Oh my God. I should come back to London. I should. That city stole my heart.
It should be very good.
Speaking about cool stuff, it's been a while that we've shown the table, but I still wanted to highlight and mention the comment from Patrick that say like, oh, how could I have missed that table? Me and my company are in the middle of building our platform, so thanks for this. So I still wanted to highlight that. And coming from Patrick too, you got his attention. How can he contribute? Just joining a meeting next year.
Yeah, so Patrick, I was going to say even before the second comment, if that table is at all useful to you or not useful to you, that is actually the best way you can contribute early days with us. Is that we would love to get more examples and feedback and experiences with using this kind of thing, both where it's working and where it's not. If you go look at the detailed part of that paper online, as I say, it's about 12 pages long. There are some example scenarios, and we super hope to start getting examples from companies that are happy to either be named if they want to be or described, right? Large, telco or large bank, mid-sized bank, whatever, so that we can really start to humanize this and make it applicable to people and have people really feel connected to the experiences associated with it. So that's one really good way of getting started. I'd also say we are working right now on trying to make the barrier to entry to contributing content lower. So we've put out these 2 massively large papers, which took 9 to 12 months each to get out the door. But this pull request that just came up on the screen is one that I've just opened, which is going to be a blog post. So you'll be able to see it in better format shortly. But basically, it's describing how people can bring their ideas for a blog post for the website as a community contribution to the table. That can be a way to get involved. And as you asked in the question, yeah, jump into a call or jump into the Slack channel if you're more suited for asynchronous chat. There's been some really good conversations started in those channels about questions. Hey, I'm seeing this pattern. What are you seeing? Hey, I'm having this challenge. What are you having? So, yeah, it's been a really good community to be a part of. So please do come join us.
Yeah, and Patrick, if I can say, not specific to that working group, but like I've been helping in other places, and usually the best way, and you come in, you say like what you want to bring to the table, what you can bring to the table. You say hi to people, you ask what they need, and you're trying to find something that is exciting to you, that you can bring your passion, your experience, and there is usually like something you can find somewhere you can help. Or as you said, like maybe the first step is just to go to the meeting, say hi, and like look from a little bit far behind and say like, hey, how is this going? Is this something I want to do? Is this a place where I want to help? But I can assure you, like, folks there are pretty nice. I joined one meeting once, I think, and I should come back. But yeah, nice people. So I think that the big part of it.
We didn't scare him away. That's all that matters.
I mean,
right.
I work with John, so I have thick
Hard to
skin.
scare.
Like
Hard to
I
scare.
need, yeah, it's really.
Scare
Only
keeps you around.
That's right. That's right. Only the strong survive at Kubefirst. That's for sure.
Right. I was actually going to ask you with your background, like one of the points that we are working on a lot right now in the working group is around this platform as a product idea. And in addition to platform as a product as a concept, on the model, we talk about this idea of adoption of the model and whether and how we get people to extrinsically pushed into using it. So how do we ask people to use it, encourage people to use it, but then how do we evolve from asking to having them actually want to use it, to intrinsically pull on using the model? And I feel like your experience with all the community work that you do and all the kind of sharing of new ideas to people is like, that's what we need an injection of into our platform team. So like, do you have any words of advice on how to get people to try something new, or also get the people building the product to be more responsive to the community to the point where the community wants to pull on the product?
Yeah, I think it always come back to what's in for me. Like, why should I first take time to read like 12 pages? So, like, what's the benefits? What can I gain out of it? And after that, I think like it helps to have like the natural flow from like, hey, we try to get people to use it to people will start to use it. So what's the benefit? Like, okay, I learn a little more about the maturity model, but like, why should I read that? Why should I use that as a standard? Why should I use that to evaluate like what's happening within my company? Like, what is the benefit of like using that model versus doing what I've always done before or didn't do before? So it's kind of like a really boring answer because that kind of like not answers the question, but like it's always like that. So really trying to show the value of people, like why should they spend the time to read it and use it? So what's the benefits? Because that can be something clear for you because like you created the model. That can be clear for someone who is involved in the platform group, but maybe it's not from someone who like is not part of the platform group, someone who is new to cloud native, someone who is used to like the different technology that we use day to day when it comes to Kubernetes. So really trying to showcase the value, I think is the first step.
Yeah.
Which
No,
I'm
it's a
not
good
saying
point.
you're not doing right now,
No,
because
it's
to
a
be honest, I
12-page
didn't
paper.
read it yet.
Can we create a blog post that makes it clear as an entry point for it, right? Like right now it could feel quite intimidating to load that page up. And the reason we needed the 12 pages was to make sure that people understood that this wasn't a measuring stick that could be used to hire and fire people, or like make decisions on is someone meeting
Okay.
their maturity.
Right,
But
right.
at the same time, like there's also entry points, and if 12 pages is not an entry point, how do we make that? So I think it's a great point. Not boring at all, I promise.
No, but I just been like, when people ask me this, I'm like, I don't have the magic solution. I have like the eye level idea of like what I think you should do to be successful in your endeavor. But yeah, I got the point. That's awesome. Thanks for asking. Um, and yeah, I think we touched base on a lot of like topics that we discuss when we decide to do that show. Is there anything left that we want to talk about?
I mean, you could wind Abby and I up, and we could probably talk until the sun comes up tomorrow morning. But yeah, I agree. We touched on all the things I definitely wanted our audience to be aware of. Certainly with the maturity model, I think that's just it would have been so helpful to me to have at prior organizations, just firsthand. You know, I've had to have those tough conversations with your CTO or with your director of engineering, and if there's ever a disconnect, or if you fear that there's a disconnect between the job that you see in front of you and your leadership's understanding of what that job is. The maturity model is just an exceptional agnostic way to put details on the table that you can measure what your needs are and what values you'll get out of those investments. And so in that capacity, I certainly wanted to highlight that for our Kubefirst audience. I think that it's really valuable for them to be able to have a 12 pages or not. It's a succinct explanation of what platform engineering and platform building is, and beyond that, I really just wanted to hang out with Abby for an hour, and I feel like we did that pretty well too. So
Goal achieved. And for the folks who love that discussion and love Abby as a guest, I'm saying this live. We're gonna have her back next year. So now you have to come. I said it live. It's done. We're gonna talk a little more about Kratix. We didn't talk about this project today, and it was for reasons because we were selfish. We just wanted Abby to come back on the show, which we're gonna do in 2024. So stay tuned for that. And on those words, any last word, Abby, you want to share with folks listening?
No, I guess really, if you haven't started thinking about platform engineering from, as I say, that socio-technical side, the humans and computers coming together, technical coming together, that would be my biggest kind of parting note, is have a think about how to think about how you're building an engineering product just like you do any other product, and that involves talking to people and understanding how your stakeholders think about things, your users think about things, and that's a huge part of platform engineering. So start digging into that side of things.
Yeah, and I highly encourage you to go on their website, check when they have meeting, just join to say hi. And even if you're not your domain of expertise, they're a friendly bunch of people, and there's always something you can do to help that platform group to move forward. So yeah, awesome. So thanks again for being with us. That was a real pleasure. Great discussion, great time, and oh my God, Patrick. You're so right. I totally forgot about that. We usually end those live stream with like a really bad jokes, and now I'm struggling a little bit because I don't have one right now, and I think I have a developer joke. So okay. I don't know if this is gonna be good. That's your fault, Patrick. It's a last minute one. So why do SQL developers have one of the highest rates of divorce? You don't know.
I can't pull it. I don't know.
It's okay. It's okay. It's because they have one too many relationships. Yes. And this is how we end a live stream at Kubefirst. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us live. Thanks for watching the recording. If you're not with us live, I want to wish you a great holidays. Have a good time. Hopefully, you can take some time off. You can disconnect, spend times with friends and or family. Stay away from the computer a little bit. And when I'm saying that, I'm talking a little bit to John and Jared at the same time. Try to disconnect. It's good for you. It's good for mental health, physical health. Just have a good time. Celebrate if you do. If you don't, just disconnect. I think it's great. And see you, everybody, in 2024 for many, many more Kubefirst Live.
Yeah. Abby, thanks for coming on. Happy New Year, everybody.
Thanks for having me. Happy holidays, y'all.